Well, it was Tom Petty who told us in 1981, the waiting is the hardest part. You remember that song? Yeah, you gotta be my age to remember that song. He wasn't talking about Christmas, but about lovers. He also wasn't expecting his lyric to be used in a sermon 38 years later, so there you go. But he inspired me to talk to you today about waiting. Today, December 8th, 2019, the second Sunday in Advent. 16 more shopping days. 17 if you really push it. Today, this moment, this reflective, holy moment that most of us stumbled toward without much thought. This peace that settles upon us in this place. In a sanctuary that has held so many Advents and so many Christmases, and so many people we will never even know their names. It holds us gently and asks us to be reflective of our lives one more time. This morning, I ask you, what are you waiting for? It's an Advent question. See, the season in the church, as Aaron mentioned earlier, known as Advent, comes to us from the Latin word coming. The purpose of this season was to anticipate the coming of the birth of Christ on earth. It was a season that focused us on waiting. As early as the 4th century, Christians fasted during this season and ended their feasts with celebrations either on the arrival of the 3 wise men or 3 kings or on the baptism of Jesus. Notice I did not say it ended on Christmas Day. Christmas as we know it is actually a rather modern phenomenon, especially in America. No Puritan would be caught dead in the first 100 years of their occupation in America celebrating Christmas. In 1659, the General Court of Massachusetts forbade the observation of, quote, any such day as Christmas or the like, either by forbearing of labor, feasting, or any other way. And those who broke that law would be fined 5 shillings. You see, Advent was the celebration. It was a period of pondering, of waiting, spiritual practice, of fasting, of study. For many today, the most familiar sign of Advent is our candle wreath here. The wreath is like an old-fashioned count up to birth blast-off clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, Jesus. I don't know. I don't know, it's just like my weird mind thinks of it. For us, of course, here in this church, the birth narrative has more to do with the meaning we can find in it than its actuality, right? It's not about counting up, it's about counting in. For us, it has always been about metaphor, not God singularly born in the world to save us lowly beasts, but God born of hope and the opportunity that we will get it right this time around. Those who wait for a singular event, God bursting in on us magically, have been and will be let down again. It's just how the world is. But those who expect reconciliation, peace, and redemptions of all sorts are in for something real. Because this Christmas, if we take it seriously, it will bring us to these things in a spectrum of ways. In events, in human beings that we know, in smiles and laughter, in quiet moments by the window at night, in aha moments in the day, in holy feelings of love and its expression, in good food and good cheer, even in sorrow. Those who expect these things will not be let down. And it will take some waiting and some observation and some patience. And it will take some waiting and some observation and some impatience. You see, I don't believe in patience as a virtue when it comes to Christmas. And I'm not talking about opening up those presents and rewrapping them when no one's looking. I know who you are. I'm talking about making something happen even while waiting for the birth of God. Reconciliations, a peace that passes all understanding, and redemptions of all sorts. I'm talking about making something happen. Now, waiting has become hard for us. We are so sped up these days, we can hardly sit through an hour at church without looking at what time it is. When it comes to Christmas, we want it, and we want it now. And Advent says, in its holy way, take a chill, dude. You see, we have been swept up. That was a joke. I don't know why you guys... That was like my best joke at the sermon, so it's all downhill from there. You see, we've been swept up. It gets lonely up here, doesn't it? Yeah. We've been swept up in the currents that wash us in consumerism and efficiency that wants Christmas today, right? I notice now that we are at Christmas the day after Halloween. My neighbor actually and literally had a tree up in their window on November 1st. The halls and malls are decked with plastic holly and crimson ribbon before we can eat the leftover Halloween candy. Thanksgiving seems to be just an interlude, providing a pre-Christmas test on basting turkeys and tolerating relatives. But the primary function these days of Thanksgiving seems to be the convenient time to gather around that spectacle of consumption and debt called Black Friday. So why this Advent-free leap from All Hallows Eve to Christmas Eve? Maybe it's because Christmas can be leveraged to move products off the shelf, and Advent is about waiting, observing, preparing, pondering, and these things contribute little to the gross domestic product. But they contribute a lot to the gross spiritual product. Advent is an awkward intrusion. It links our hearts with those ancient prophets who pined for a long-promised Messiah but passed before his arrival. So because their work is undone, it demands something of us. The waiting, the harder part, Tom Petty. It asks us what we can be steeped in that can be turned toward the good, toward salvation and redemption for the world. It asks us to observe our lives and our world and make a list not of what we want for Christmas, but what we can affect. That's why I love Suzanne Meyer's newsletter article that Aaron read today. She says, I wouldn't stop believing and I wouldn't stop waiting for what? The voice of cynicism to quit passing itself off as reason. For optimism to come back into vogue, for a president to keep his promises, for the hatchet to be buried, a ship to come in, the prophets to return. Yes, all that, she says, but then she turns. She says, for you to tell me that you love me, no, not even that. I will tell you that I love you because it's Christmas time and some things wouldn't wait. You see, I think Suzanne was doing theology in this writing. She knew that we are not people who wait around for things to magically happen. We are people who believe in the virtue of impatience because there is so much we can do, great and small, to heal lives and relationships and worlds and communities, and not because of some magical moment where God arrives all of a sudden. Christmas at its core is not about the decorations and the tinsel and the boxes and the trees, and the wreaths and the candles, nice as all those things are. It's about impatience with the way things are going. It's about being impatient with ourselves and finding how we can make things right in the world we can affect. Patience in this regard is self-satisfaction. It is acquiescence and lacks expectation or a hope of change. The ancients asked, where is the promise of his coming? And we take that ancient story and question and ask ourselves, how do we get to a new heaven and new earth in our families, in our relationships, and in our world? Advent warns us that comfort with the past or even a present state of things lacks hope and requires instead an activation of the future. And I'm not talking about getting all wrapped up in the impeachment process. In the cosmic scale, it's important, but it's small. I'm talking about getting ourselves and our hearts and our relationships and our families and our communities right with the holy this season. You see, Advent and in turn Christmas gives us this chance every year to reset, to make something right. And it starts with us. And Advent says to us we must be impatient to endure the hard waiting, possibly, but to activate ourselves as solutions toward the birth of God in the world, which looks a lot more like fulfilling the promise of our humanity with the people we love and moving out from there than the birth of a little baby in a manger in Bethlehem. So this Advent season, consider how you and your family might celebrate this discipline of waiting and observing, contemplating your life. I suggest you set aside a few moments each evening and consider the brokenness of God's creation. Turn off the TV and take time to read to one another and discuss what could be better and how, and listen deeply to the answers you might not expect, and see what a reflective life could mean for you in these darkening evenings. This time-out period of Advent should challenge us to do things like this. It should help us think differently about both the present and the future. It should help us value the present as a gift, and cherish the future as an ultimate hope to make the world right. So let your impatience stir you to act in this time, so that when we get to Christmas Eve, when we're all sitting here with our candles and singing Silent Night, we will have prepared something or someone or our heart to make something new born in all our lives. Some reconciliation that has stung for too long. Some chance at love that needs to be realized. Some unspoken truth that needs to be said. Some hope realized among us. We can do it. It's right there, waiting for us, like Suzanne's reading says. So in the end, we can say, I'm not waiting for you to tell me that you love me. I'm going to take that into my own hands. That's the meaning of Christmas and Advent, pointing us toward that opportunity. No, I wouldn't wait for the mistletoe either, she says. I'll kiss you anyway and tell you that I love you because it's Christmas time. And for some things, I wouldn't wait. And we shouldn't either. Amen and amen.